This is Legacy Battle. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on whatever you're listening on. I am Michael Adams, creator of Legacy Battle. My panelist tonight from Gridiron Battle Zone, Brian King. We're joined by a special guest tonight, former Major League Baseball right fielder, played with the Tigers, Phillies, Mariners, Pirates, and Astros. He led National League Baseball outfielders 3-time in assists and double plays turned. And check this stat out. Range factor, he is 30th all time since 1901. 30th all time in his position. He led the league in fielding percentage in 1983. So we got Major League Baseball All-Star Glenn Wilson here. Glenn, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be on.
Awesome. So we're going to jump into our interview tonight here, and we're going to start with Brian.
All right, Glenn. Can you tell me a little bit about growing up in Channelville, Texas, and how you got started on the road to becoming a professional baseball player?
Okay, growing up in Channelview, I lost my father when I was 6 years old. I had two older brothers and an athletic mother who had actually played professional basketball after being All-State 5 years in high school. They brought her up from the 8th grade. They grew up in Mississippi, both my mom and dad. My dad falls over dead on the 13th green of our local golf course in Channelview. Then my travels became my oldest brother, who wanted to be the next Mickey Mantle. He needed somebody to work with him. And by age 3, I was already hitting plastic baseballs with a stick. And by the time I was 6, I probably could have played with 10-year-olds. You know, I was just really blessed with athletic ability, not really one sport, because I would venture on from having my brother beat me up if I didn't play with him, and having to play with him every single day of baseball. In my teen years, Joe Namath became my idol, along with Muhammad Ali. And so those were my two influences. I didn't like baseball as much as I liked football, basketball. I played all 4 of these in high school: football, baseball, basketball, and track. But in basketball, it's the only sport I had trouble with. Even though I could slam dunk a volleyball and then a basketball by my junior and senior years, I couldn't make it go through the hole from the outside. So the coach told me, in that sport, if it's not a layup or a dunk, pass it. So I went on to pole vault, high jump, in track, went to the state meet both years, junior and senior years, rather. But Joe Namath being my hero, when it came to high school football, they brought me to the varsity as just a defensive back my freshman year. And then, of course, the next year, my sophomore year, they wanted me on varsity, and I asked to stay on JV to play quarterback because they already had a veteran quarterback. And then, of course, you know, I got a full offer from Sam Houston State University in Huntsville, Texas. But, you know, my childhood, my upbringing was perfect for a kid with a lot of athletic ability. You know, I had the right people in my life.
So you were a really good outfielder. You had a very strong arm. You'd even throw batters out at first base, which we don't see that anymore in today's baseball. That's a lost art. Is that something that you worked on in practice, or what do you attribute to your great arm strength and accuracy?
Again, God gave me a great arm. I mean, not just strong and accurate. He gave me this knowledge with the game, and I'd been a third baseman my whole life, and the only reason I got moved to the outfield was because, you know, I was sent straight to Double-A after being a #1 draft pick, and was in the big leagues in a year and a half. So, you know, my arm was tremendous from third base, but when I threw it high, it might kill somebody in the stands. And so that's what happened in Montgomery, Alabama. My first year, I was just making a lot of throwing errors. And the next year, the Tigers said, hey, we can make him an outfielder because he can hit. And see, that's the story till today about kids that, look, play the infield if you can, because you can take an infielder and make him an outfielder, where you usually can't take an outfielder and make him an infielder, except maybe first base. Right. But as far as the arm strength goes, I was always throwing. I threw every day from age 3 till 34. Yeah. No, and I still throw. What am I talking about? I throw batting practice. I've never had arm pain either. And I attribute that to throwing every day.
Right. Well, let me take you back to the 1985 All-Star game in the Metrodome in Minnesota. You're on the field and in the dugout with some all-time greats like Ozzie Smith, Nolan Ryan, Tony Gwynn, Ryan Sandberg. What was that experience like? And was there sort of a level of awe being around so many legends like that?
Yeah. The first thing was, I was like a kid in a candy store. I was also scared to death because, I wasn't on the field for batting practice, the locker room, and all the functions that go on at the All-Star game and the day prior and the day before or day after. It's I believe they should make it to where if you made the All-Star team for the first time, and say like I did in 1985, you should automatically be on the one for 1986 because you can't feel your body. At least I could. I was in awe, just absolute awe. I remember the biggest event of that game I remembered was Nolan came in the game and knocked Ricky Henderson on. I am not kidding you. I have no idea how he got out of the way of that pitch. And when I saw that, I went, oh my gosh. I faced Nolan a lot. And man, that scared me for me. So even though I'd gone to do fairly well against Nolan, I had 2 home runs off of him. But I was in the 5-hole, and he would always have just really been grinding, for the cleanup hitter. It was either Schmidt or Davis or Lance Parrish. So, it was pretty awesome at that All-Star game. Still have the ring. It's beautiful. I didn't even know you got a ring for an All-Star game.
I didn't know that either. Wow.
Yeah, you get a ring. And it says, has a big, it actually had a maroon, Phillies maroon, ruby in it. And then on the top, it's got in gold, the Major League Baseball logo. And then on each side, it has who the American League team is, who the National League team is. And so, yeah, anytime.
So I'm going to take you to 1987. You get on the mound and you pitch 1 inning of Major League Baseball. You strike out 1. You give up no hits. How did that go down?
Okay. I'd been beating up John Felski after him was Lee Ilya and even Paul Owens. I beat him up about, hey, let me pitch an inning. You let Greg Gross, you let Tommy Greg, and I've seen it with so many other things. I need to get an inning in if we're out of pitchers. So we were out of pitchers on a night in New York, Shea Stadium. And so what I did was we were down 13-3. And what happened was we were out of pitchers, and Lee Ilya came over to me. It was going to be the top of the eighth, and asked, "Hey, Willie, you think you can give me an inning?" And I looked at him like, "Are you crazy? I could give you 20." After I left, and so what happened next was just pure will, uh, just absolutely pure will. I took the mound, and Ilya was smart. He was a veteran guy, been around the game a long time, and he said to me, "Whatever you do, don't embarrass the game." And I wasn't going to embarrass the game. And so now I'm pitching. My first hitter's Jerry Carter. He's 3 for 5 on the night with 2 home runs. And I just happened to turn around, to get the ball because, they throw it around the infield before you get it. And I wasn't nervous. I was probably more confident than I'd been since my last game. I was just a confident person. It came off as cocky in high school and college that there's actually a movie about it now called Everybody Wants Some. A guy that was on our 1980 college team, he made the movie. His name's Richard Linklater. You may have heard of him. He's done a lot of Everybody Wants Some, Boyhood, and then the movie he considered his high school deal. I forget the name. It's on the tip of my tongue. But anyways, we were talking about pitching. So I start Gary Carter off with a curveball, my old high school curveball. I had not pitched an inning since high school. And actually, during the game, you can hear Richie Ashburn saying, "I believe he pitched in high school." And, after I saw the replay, I'm like, how did he know that? But, they know a lot about you. So, anyways, I start Carter off with a curveball. He takes it for a strike. And then I go to Howard Johnson. And Hojo and I had come up to the big leagues together on the same plate, on the same team, in the same organization. So we had our first taste of the big leagues together. But we weren't close, but we were connected. So, he's laughing, and Ilya's told me, "Don't embarrass the game." And I can't smile, but I got a little giggle came across me for a second. I just put my head down. And Hojo gets in there. Now I'm throwing all split fingers. I used to warm up in the outfield with whoever came out of the bullpen, whatever reliever, and I'd warm up like I was Nolan Ryan. I would throw curveballs and splitters and cutters and all these different pitches. And it was, again, it kept me, doing something. I was always that kid that had to be doing something. I couldn't just sit around. I'm still that way to this day. And so I start Hojo off with a splitter. It takes it for a strike, and it looks like a curveball. And Harry Callis actually calls it a curve because it just drops straight down on the outside corner. And I was like, wow, they usually move left for me in the outfield, but I guess because of the height of the mound, this is how they're going to go. So I'll just have to start them higher. And that's how the brain works. Not just pitching, hitting, playing your position. And that's what's not being taught to kids these days. Of course, they can play because they're playing all the time in this select baseball year round. Some kids are playing 130 games a year at age 8, which there's nothing wrong with that, but they're spending too much money when they could just play plastic ball in the backyard and get the same results. But anyways, I get Hojo down to 2 strikes, and he kind of slumps, his shoulders drop, and he's walking away from the dugout camera from the visitor side. And so he gets back in the box, and he turns to Darren Dalton, God rest his soul. He's catching that game, and he and I were on pace after the first hitter with Carter. He didn't know I threw all those pitches. But he was right on with which one was best for who. I mean, that guy he was brilliant, a baseball player. Brilliant. Not only great, he was brilliant. And to be a catcher, you have to be brilliant if you're going to be great like he was. So anyways, I gave him one fastball, but I waited until he had one strike on him. So he was 1-1. I just gave him a firm fastball. I did not try to overthrow because I didn't want to hurt my own arm. And I'd heard of it happening before. And he swings and fouls it back. And he knows now I've got him. And we're at 1-2. And I throw another splitty. And this ball literally dropped to the ground in front of Darren, waist high, when it got to Hojo. And Darren had to pick it up out of the dirt and tag him. And I went, oh my goodness! I missed. I'm doing the wrong thing for my career. But here's the whole deal: I never wanted to be a baseball player. I wanted to be the next Joe Namath. Right. And God had other plans, and that's why I tell people all the time now, because I'm a licensed ordained minister. I've spoken in prisons. I go to churches. I go to functions in the city for the the meek of the world in our area of the world, and it's a sad situation. But anyways, the next hitter was Rafael Santana. And he actually took me to like 11 pitches. And I just kept throwing fastballs because I knew he would probably pop it up or hit a ball on the ground because he didn't hit a lot of home runs in his career. But he ended up grounding out to short to Steve Jeltz in the inning. And I just do my best imitation of the way Nolan walked off the field. Got to the dugout, and I told after I waited till everybody got there, and I'm acting like I'm getting ready to sit down, and I say to them, "This is how it's done. It's that easy. So learn from it." And did I catch that? I mean, it was awesome. He's like, "Oh, now you think you can pump everybody up?" I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You're right.
Well, speaking of pumping everybody up, Sparky Anderson, Paul Owens, Jim Leland, all big league managers who took clubs to the Fall Classic.
Yes, sir.
Which of these managers did you feel the most comfortable working with? And how would you say that their managerial styles differed?
Leland was, let's start with number one. Sparky hated rookies. It was best I be traded, although I wanted to play 20 years. And I still to this day believe I would have if he'd have just left me alone. My first year in the big leagues, he wanted me to play center, and so I did. And I had fewer errors than I ever had in a season. The next year was when I became a right fielder. But Sparky never complimented me, ever. And you got to remember, growing up without a dad and having two older brothers, you're fighting for attention. And so it just carried over in my life. I also was a person that was defiant to authority unless it was like the law, police officers or military men. I always gave them rank above me. But as far as umpires, managers, general managers, no. You're just another guy to me. I don't care if you've got money or don't have money. You're just another guy. And I literally quit the Detroit Tigers for about an hour when Sparky told me in that rookie year I'm hitting. After 2 weeks, I was hitting 425. After the fourth week, I'm still hitting 385. And he tells me they got to send me down during batting practice. And I said, do what? He said, we have to send you down. Well, see, I didn't understand the system of baseball. And I said, well, if you're going to send me down, I quit. He goes, well, quit. I said, okay, bye. And I started taking my uniform off as I'm walking across the Tiger Field. And I went and put my street clothes on and was headed out the door. And Roger Craig stopped me and said, hey, Glenn, he goes, before you go, will you do us a favor or do it for me? Is how he ended up saying it. Because I was so mad, angry like a little kid. Because I was still a kid, according, with being around Major League Baseball. This is my rookie year, and I'm tearing it up. And I'm getting sent down. They know you're not going to be happy if you're competitive. If you're not competitive, yeah, you just go down. But I wasn't going down. And so, when Roger Craig worded it the way he did, I said, yeah, for you, I will. So he asked me to go upstairs and talk to the general manager, Jim Campbell. And I did. And he explained how Major League Baseball worked with options on rookies, option on a first year and second year player, and how you can get brought back up. And because they called me up, that was one option. Going back's two. Only after one more, you have to stay. And that made sense. But, just to walk up to me and say, you're being sent down was just terrifying. Sparky, I hated. We would have come to blows at some point in time. Who was number two to Phillies? Just nothing but respect, but we did have a fist fight. I think that was a good thing because we loved each other after that. Third manager was John Felsky, my favorite. My favorite manager of all time because he put me in the lineup the first year he took over in '85 and never took me out. I didn't have to, it was my first year to not have to worry when you're coming to the clubhouse if you're going to be in the lineup or not. After him, I had Lee Ilya, who was just, a remnant to me. He'd been around the league. He was the Cubs manager when they just wouldn't give him any talent. So I didn't really dislike him or like him. It was just, he was the manager. I respected him. Then I had, after Ilya, I went to Seattle. I had Dick Williams for a brief period till August of 1 year. He was already at close to 70, if not 70. He was done, and he was brutally mean and openly mean. So he and I never say anything back to the elderly. So I just let him say his piece and go on because I knew I was going to be in the cleanup spot. That's why they traded for me. Then they traded me to Pittsburgh. I get Leland again. I'd had him in AAA briefly. And I really liked him because he was a gambler, and literally a gambler at dog tracks. I don't know if he did any other gambling than that. I just mean he was also a gambler with players on the field. He's known as this, great manager that might or might not make the Hall of Fame. The person, though, he wasn't a kind man. He was just all about Jim Leland as a manager. He was trying to be the best he could be. So take it as you want. After Leland, I ended up with Art Howe. Now, here's a guy I played against. And I'm in my early 30s now. And he's used to Houston Astro baseball mostly. You know, he played for the Cardinals, I know, also, and maybe somebody else. Great man. Manager, good for young players, horrible for veterans that he didn't play with. He played favorites and all that. Moneyball didn't depict him at all correctly, other than he was quiet. He was a quiet man. Still is. Good golfer, too.
We'll get you out of here with this. So tell us about your book, Headed Home, a MLB All-Star Search for Truth.
Okay. I wrote Headed Home based on my autobiography of my life. I tell you how to get to the big leagues, how not to get to the big leagues, and also tell you your relationship with your father or your son's feelings when certain things happen while I'm telling my story of my life. It has done pretty good. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback, nothing but positive feedback. It's been out for a while. It's still on Amazon because I'm in the process of consulting a few people like the president of Baseball Chapel, Vince Noss, who works for the Phillies. I'm consulting with him on his end of things, and then a couple of players' ends of things, and how they looked at Glenn Wilson, the ball player. So the first one is about my life and helping kids and parents. Then it throws you a big curveball at the end. The second one, I'll let you know when it comes out. It should be done. It's going to take me another year and a half.
Okay. Awesome. And you can get that on Amazon, I assume?
Yes. Get it on Amazon.com. Get it fast. They're going fast. They're only $6.99 right now. I cut a tremendous discount for especially New Jersey, Philadelphia, any of the Northeast gets the $9.99 or $9.69, I think it is. But Texas folks, they got to pay the full 16. Sorry. But if you try me in a round of golf, you can catch me in Conroe, Texas. Just ask anyone; they know where I'm at, especially on Sundays.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you coming on.
Hey, not a problem. Y'all be safe. God bless.
I want to remind everybody, hit that subscribe button and make sure you purchase his book. You can get it on Amazon, like you said. Everyone have a great night. Thank you for watching.